Hello, this is Begin the Slaughter devlogs, and I'm Murder Who. Today I continued working on the mines, finished all the models I should need for them. I can always go further with decoration, but the mines are already far more intricate than other rooms. I also made all of the mine modules I should need. While it is true that I thought more about the script I need to write for them, I am also intimidated by the programming challenge and design challenge. Making a long, dark, twisting maze with lots of dead ends will serve only to frustrate players and will not largely be fun. I want the mines to be maze-like, but the players should be able to get to where they need to without too much difficulty. I love mazes, this ain't the game for, difficult mazes. The technical hurdles aren't particularly big, just imposing. I designed everything in my head for one entrance into the mines without realizing it. Placing a single entrance and then modifying the height of all the mine modules is easy. I cast a number of rays from a few points on the tile, hoping to hit a cliff. If I hit a cliff, I back up, find the ground, and then place the mine entrance at that point. Then every module can be placed relative to that entrance. Because all of the mine modules obey a grid-like system, as I covered in the last video, I don't really need to think anything further about them. I don't need to do any special placement. I don't need to make any interstitial modules or anything like that. Now, if I'm placing 4 entrances, they all need to be on the same level, the same height, or on the same level plus or minus an integer multiple of 1 mine height. How exactly do I hope to find 4 locations with the same height, preferably all facing a cliff? This is complicated by that I wanted the scoring mechanism for the mine's power to be determined by how many of the 4 entrances are embedded in cliff faces, rather than going straight into the ground, which is the option if I can't find a cliff face. So I mostly avoided working on the script for today, the mine script, and worked on a laundry list of small issues that needed bug finding and bug fixing, and some other small things that needed doing. Let's go over them. I fixed a gravity bug with enemies. Sometimes they can get stuck climbing. When this happens, because gravity doesn't apply while climbing, they would accrue a ludicrous amount of vertical velocity until they clipped through everything. This occasionally resulted in enemies raining down on the player from the skies. I fixed an alarm bug, where the offset in enemies passing on alarms could, if an enemy were close enough to each other and there were enough of them, keep them all in a perpetual loop of alarming each other far out of sight of the player. I just appended the alarm cooldown plus an extra couple of seconds as an additional check. If they are alarmed within 2 seconds after de-escalating, they swallow the alarm instead of becoming alarmed and repeating it. There was a problem with the player not being able to hit melee enemies before being hit themselves. This had several causes. Cause 1, the player's range was shorter than the enemy's range. Cause 2, the enemy didn't always stop attacking when hit, and would always carry through. The momentum-based play ensures that the player would always run into their sword, even, after they're dead. Cause 3, the enemy has no attack cooldown, so stopping the enemy's attack when hit immediately started a new attack. After fixing all of these, you can now attack an attacking melee enemy without taking damage yourself, even if they have armor. Because you should have some way of damagelessly killing those enemies. Additionally, some melee enemies were miscolored. This is because they were using an old version of the enemy packed scene. That was fixed. That took me a while to find because I was expecting a scripting error, and did not realize it was the same enemies every time that were miscolored. Since they're randomly placed in the world, it's not the most obvious thing. I made a quick script for enabling and disabling the water when you enter the mines. The water, by the way, is actually just a giant plane with a single pathologic material on it. It has improper values for normal displacement roughness and UV scaling, and as a result you get this kind of freaky alien water. I'm not totally sure if I'm going to stick with it. I like the look of it. Some people I've shown this game to have absolutely hated it, so it's a reason to change maybe. But because it's a giant plane, if you would enter the mines and thus go below the map, you would see the plane before dipping below it. So, very minor script, still not the best way to do it, as you may end up seeing the water for a brief moment before it disappears, but you enter into one area, it disables it. When you're exiting the mine, you enter into another area that enables the water again, so you'd see it when you go back out. Not the best way to do it. Not going to spend too much time worrying about a minor visual bug. I now have a start node building. Before, the player always started in a given location on the northwest of the island. Now, after placing your initial 3 buildings, you place an already completed square that on placement warps the player there. The inspiration, Brandotura, starts the player in the start square and you build off from the start square. I didn't want to do that because the obvious start, the center of the map, is the mountain, and if I place you on the sides, that locks off a lot of potential placement that players might do. I wanted you to be able to expand in a lot of different directions. In Begin the Slaughter, you can place your first tile anywhere, therefore, and then all tiles thereafter must be adjacent to an existing tile. It's taking me an embarrassing amount of time to realize I could fix my problem with how do I decide where to start the player by drafting the start node at the end of the first set of drafts. When buildings modify terrain, they now also move trees down to, or up to, the new terrain level accordingly, if they don't chop the trees down. Upgrades now spawn above the player upon completing a grid square, and additionally, when the player teleports to a previously completed area from the map, they now spawn above the coordinates where they completed the room. Previously, the upgrades spawned in the center of the grid square, which might be very far away from where you killed the last crystal, and that was also where you teleported. This was mainly not implemented just because I hadn't gotten around to it yet. In the future, I also want to make sure that the upgrades spawn somewhere that is accessible. So, if you break a crystal inside of a building, I don't want it to end up in the building's walls. So I will be adding an area that does a collision check afterwards. But, again, just out of laziness, I haven't yet. I haven't really thought about what the next step after that is, and so I haven't implemented it yet. So that's all the progress I have for today. Thanks for watching.